Hi there and welcome to the CyberHut TV Vendor Introduction Series. My name is Simon Moffat. I'm founder analyst at the CyberHut, and in our Vendor Introduction Series I get to interview founders of all of the super cool, exciting identity security related startups around the globe, and I'm absolutely fortunate to have Itzik from Entro Security with me. Itzik, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Simon.
Not at all. Thanks for taking time out of the busy world of solving our identity security problems. And for those who have not seen one of these episodes before, the idea is I get to ask three very important questions of our esteemed guest. And I often start off with question number one, which is essentially, what is the problem that Entro Security is looking to solve? Over to you.
So pleasure to meet everybody. I'm Itzik Alvas, the CEO and founder of Entro Security. Entro is a non-human identity and secret security company. We help organizations to securely use non-human identities by managing and securing and automating their lifecycle. So the main problem is around non-human identities like service accounts, API keys, connection strings. We're seeing at our customer base that for every human identity, human employee in the company, there are at least 92 non-human identities. So they have a lot of non-human identities in each organization. So the sheer size is overwhelming. And the main problem with them is that those non-human identities like API keys, service accounts, and so forth, they are being created by teams that are not responsible to secure them. So they are being created by developers, DevOps, SREs, without proper security oversight. And those teams scatter them around so they can store them within vaults solutions. But nowadays, organizations have at least 5 different vaults. So those secrets and non-human identities are scattered between vaults, but also they are being sent over Slack or Teams, within Confluence pages, config files, exposed in a lot of different locations. And the main problem we're seeing is that security teams don't know how many non-human identities and secrets they have and where. Also, those secrets are long randomized strings. And that means that if a security professional will find one, you have no context about it. You don't know who created them, when, for what application is using them. And when you combine everything, when you combine that security teams don't know how many non-human identities they have, where or what they're able to do, that's why organizations are struggling to protect those non-human identities. And that's why for the past 4 years in a row, by Verizon and IBM, who's leading the cybersecurity reports out there, that's why it's the second most frequent attack vector out there and the number one most costly attack to an organization. So that's the problem area.
It seems that the problem area is getting bigger and bigger.
For sure.
92 to 1 is a ratio, seems huge, but equally I think as well, that really important point you made there around the people who are creating these NHIs are not always the same people who are securing them. And I think that dichotomy is a real problem, isn't it? It's the proliferation is huge because there's no cost to, as you say, creating maybe hard-coded secret or whatever it could be, but then that amplifies in the respect of visibility, context as well. What is this secret? Can I delete it? Can I remove it? Can I revoke it? I think that is a huge problem. So that sort of leads me into the next question: is why is this a problem now? And it seems to me maybe a combination of legacy technology which just can't cope for NHI, combined with this huge volume of services and APIs. But I guess in your words, why is this suddenly becoming more of an issue now?
Right, those non-human identities are essentially programmatic access keys, right? Programmatic credentials that applications are using to authenticate and access services they need, like databases and so forth. And why it's a huge problem now? Basically, because of the cloud and the breaking of the monolith. So each cloud service nowadays requires at least one of those non-human identities to enable authentication. So if you're using, I don't know, MongoDB, and your application needs to authenticate and use that MongoDB, they need a secret, a token, a non-human identity to do that. And it's an ancient problem, right? Because back in the day, you had service account, you had application that used service accounts in order to access whatever resources they need. But then you would also have, when you were on-prem, it was an issue, but you would have, network boundary. So even if you lost a service account, someone will need to enter your organization in order to use that. Nowadays, no network boundaries in the cloud, right? If I have your connection string, your non-human identity for your MongoDB or AWS, I can just use it. Often those are with very high permissions, so even excessive permissions they don't need, because again, the developers are the ones who are creating them, permissioning them, using them. So a lot of the time they are giving them very high permissions. And when we're seeing, organization breaking down the monoliths into microservices, now each microservice needs an whole set of keys. Earlier, the monolith, the entire application had a set of secrets and non-human identities. Now each microservice have a set of them, and with more cloud services that we adopt and use, and we're adopting and using new ones every single day, there are more and more non-human identities. So yes, Gartner said like 6 months ago that for every human identity there are 45 non-human. Within 6 months, it's already doubled itself. So it's it's a huge problem, and it's only growing as we speak.
Yeah, it's a scary thing, isn't it? It is proliferating, I think, in volume. But as you say, you have the cloud aspect with respect to organizations deploying technology in different ways.
Yeah.
Public cloud, private cloud, cloud native, but within their own ecosystems. Technology which isn't necessarily having visibility across all of those different deployment areas. The whole porosity problem as well. And to me, I look at this as simply an extension or a growing of the adversarial attack surface. They will look at this and think, wow, suddenly we have a huge proliferation of NHI workload services, hard-coded credentials, which is really in a black spot. Ultimately, it's in a hidden area, which I think from an adversarial perspective, why not target those as an entry into an organization, which I guess ultimately, we've created this scare story ultimately of this is a really big problem, it's a bad problem, it's getting bigger. So why at Entro? Why are you best placed to solve this? What's your secret sauce to try and fix this problem?
Right. So as maybe a bit about myself and why I started Entro with a friend of mine, with Adam. So I started my cybersecurity journey back in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. I was on the offensive side of the cyber market, but going into the public market, I worked for defensive cybersecurity. That was what I've done, usually in management positions. So prior to Entro, I was responsible for the internal security of one of Microsoft's clouds. Prior to that, I was a CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer at an healthcare services, the biggest one in Europe. And when we transitioned into the cloud, after a month, we got breached by a non-human identity. At Microsoft, we were breached twice while I was there. They got breached again afterwards by non-human identities. And with no solution out there, I started to think about what can we do, and joined forces with a friend of mine back from the army. Adam is now the co-founder and CTO, and we started Entro. So we're pioneering. We pioneered that vertical, and we're by far the most advanced company out there. The sheer size of our customers, so we're built to scale, but according to other market analysts and in our customer base, for sure we have the most mature platform out there. And again, it makes sense because we pioneered the space. The visibility of non-human identities. So Entro is able to find all non-human identities once they were created if they got stored in a vault or if they were exposed. We're the only one who's able to do that. We're the only one who's able to find exposure of non-human identities, like if someone sent them over Slack or within wiki pages, cloud assets, and so forth, which is the number one most root cause for those attacks. So we're the only one who's giving full visibility and inventory for non-human identities, and we're the only one who's actually able to do abnormal behaviors. I know there are other companies who claim they can do it. We're far more superior. So if someone from Africa is using your token to access your environment and you're not doing business with Africa, we're gonna detect that, alert about that, and prevent it. If someone is downloading non-human identities from your vaults or so forth, another abnormal behavior we will be able to detect and prevent, and we are doing that for our customers. We can enrich tokens, create a visual lineage map of which application is using what token to access what service, other vital data around it, like with the human owner, permissions, static risk around them, misconfiguration, posture management. So we're doing quite a lot, also automated remediation. But for sure, the visibility part, abnormal behaviors part, which is non-human identity detection and response, and HIDR, and the fact that we pioneer the market and the most mature with the biggest customer base out there. That's definitely why we are the best, and we will keep leading that market.
Love that. Love that. It's great. You've got the whole end-to-end set of capabilities there, isn't it? From understanding the visibility, you can't protect what you can't see ultimately. So you have to be able to find that stuff. And then obviously, talk about behaviors and being able to visualize and everything else, I think is a really, really powerful way of thinking about it. And I think probably quite unique in being both a red teamer and a blue teamer. Having those both sides of the coin is probably quite rare in this day and age. That's really good.
Yeah, for
end
sure.
To end.
Building a cybersecurity company as a practitioner, that's
it's
a unique journey.
It's absolutely, it's real. You're fixing the real world problems. Thank you for giving me the update, or giving us the update on Entro security. I think this is a huge addressable problem. NHI's workloads and others, and I only see this market getting bigger and bigger as organizations break down their monolithic services into microservices. They use automation, chatbots, process automation, etc. It's only going to get bigger and bigger, and I think it is important to have an end-to-end set of capabilities to help both discover and control and remediate some of these issues. So Itzik, thank you for taking some time out to chat with me today. This has been another episode in our vendor introduction series. Thank you, Itzik. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Simon.
Until next time, we'll see you later. Thank you.